Hi everyone, welcome to Finance, and in this video we're going to cover stock trading strategy review as of November 13, 2020. So here's our peso denominated stocks or portfolio. Now if you're going to compare this one before, let's say September 25, we have now a lot of companies here. Now the main reason is that we actually see an upbeat or positive sentiment in the market regarding the development of vaccine against COVID. So if you're going to look at here, we have around 15 companies here, and on top we have we have MAXS and SSI performing above 30% profit. So we are just going to limit our discussion on the top three performers. So for the fundamentals, we have year-end price in 2019 is actually 13.75. EPS is still very affordable, 0.72. Price earnings 19. If you have the cash flow, it's still positive here. Book value per share is 4 pesos. Now, if you're going to look at here, it's trading around 7. So it's quite near the book value per share. PEG ratio is 2. And then market cap, enterprise value is 26 and 28 respectively. Now for the maxes, we have here year-end price is 12.40. Earnings, it's still very available. That's 0.66. Price earnings ratio 18.70. Now for the cash flow here we have negative, but looking at the book value per share here and the trading price of the maxis now it's around 6.75. That's very still considered as a discounted. PEG ratio we have 1.14, market value and enterprise value 12 and 19 respectively. Now moving on to SSI, we have year-end price of 2.78, earnings per share 0.24, price earnings 11. Now the cash flow is 0.89, book value per share is 3 pesos and 49 centavos. Now the trading price of SSI now is actually 1.6, like almost the half of the book value per share way back 2019. And then PEG ratio, we have 0.33, market cap, enterprise value is 19 versus 13. And those companies are still considered as undervalued companies, so there's still a very long way for them to move outside. Now moving on the charts or technicals. So here we're looking at MAC or Macro Asia Corporation. So if you're not familiar with MAC is actually involved in servicing of airports, so aviation servicing and so on and so forth. So here we have some positive sentiment or catalyst in the market. We have here the restriction, easing of restriction from ECQ to GCQ in Manila. So they're also looking at allowing some domestic flights. So those catalysts actually triggered here the stock to break this very strong resistance. So we can see here that this actual resistance has been there for about 3 months, since August, September, October. But during this time, late October, we can see here that it actually successfully breached this 5 pesos per share resistance. Now our basis for the entry is that we saw this one. So if you're not yet familiar with the market structure, you can check one of our videos here. We have identification of the market structure, and this is actually the signal that we have here. Although we have here the formation of upper lows and upper highs, and if you're going to look at here the MACD, it actually shows around a possible upside. Looking at the histogram, and also the RSI is way below the 50, so we're just looking on more force. And also the volume here is very low. So if you're going to look at, we actually came in here, and the next day it actually had this red candle, and it actually moved sideways for about a week before having these green candles back here. Okay, so we're still very positive on this one. If you're going to look at here, the 9-day and 26-day EMA had just crossed the 52-day EMA, so that's actually a sign of a bullish uptrend. So we're going to hold for this stock maybe until this year, or let's see if we have potential, let's say, profit taking ahead. So for the MAXS Group, these companies actually engage in chains of restaurants across the Philippines. So it's actually the same as the catalyst that we have in MAC. So we have here the restriction easing from ECQ to GCQ and so on and so forth in Metro Manila areas. So we have a very positive sentiment to the stock. So we actually came in here, but the volume is actually quite flat, and we also had this second chance here of adding some positions when we saw this very huge engulfing candle, and that price uptrend was actually supported by this uptick in volume here. And although the MACD is actually um, above the baseline, and the RSI is actually hovering above these overbought levels, but if you're going to look at the 9-day and 26-day EMA, that's actually the same time that they crossed the 52-day EMA, which is actually a sign of a bullish uptrend. So from this point right here, we saw that the stock price actually respected the 9-day EMA for, let's say, almost 2 weeks now. So they actually tried to go upper highs and then go back here, settle on the 9-day EMA, go up again and settle on 9-day EMA, and so on and so forth. So here's SSI Group. Now, if you're not familiar with SSI, they're actually engaged in clothing, retails, and chains of retail outlets for clothing brands. So here we still have the same catalyst. We have the easing of restriction in NCR, and our position actually took place here, and we saw this signal here that if we're going to look at here, this is actually a formation of upper lows, but it tends to be like a false signal. Now the main reason is that this price uptick here is not actually supported by volume, and the MACD is actually lying flat along the baseline. We also have this bearish movement on the RSI, so that's why the next day, the next trading day, we actually incurred negative figure here coming from this green candle here and an engulfing red candle here. But if you're going to look at here, we have the moving averages 9-day and 26-day EMA started to hover above the 52-day EMA. So again, if we see crossovers of EMAs or EMA, that would actually signify a bullish or a bearish up trend. But in this case, we actually saw this one, and it's actually a formation of a bullish uptrend. So if you're going to look at here, after we had our placement about a week, the stock was actually trading sideways and respected here the support of the 52-day EMA before taking off and moving uptrend, finding support on the 90 EMA. Here we have the blue line. So we're still very positive on this one, SSI, moving forward. So we'll try to find opportunities to take some profit partially or cost average if we see some massive correction um, in the coming quarters. So just want to share with you here a very quick note about Forex. The main reason why I haven't uploaded some of the videos in September, because we're actually trying to shift some of our positions from peso currency to dollar denominated stocks or positions. Now the main reason is that we saw this one, the Forex or dollar versus PHP has been trading around above 50 pesos, okay, for the longest time, maybe around 5 years, 10 years maybe. But if we're going to look at here, for the 1 year before the COVID, it's actually around 50, and now it's trading around 48. Now that's a massive discount. If you're going to look at here, without considering investment, you just buy some dollars now and hold, you can actually have a potential upside of 4%. So from 48 up to 50, that's going to give you 4%. Now, what's the reason of that? Very strong peso. So first we have to look at the benchmark rates that the U.S. actually had, or is having near zero interest rate, 0.25%, while the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas is still maintaining 2.25%. So that, the variance of those interest rates can actually give you, you know, the reason why the peso is actually getting stronger against the greenback. And if you're going to look at here, economic catalyst like this one, Philippines exports imports down by 24.7% the first half. Now this would mean that there is no demand for dollar in the economy right now. So with business sectors are really moving sideways, so they don't have that huge demand to drive the dollar price back to 50 for now. So looking at those considerations, we actually converted some of the peso to dollar. So our average cost is around 48 to 49. And we just hold that one and diversify to dollar denominated stocks, and then wait for the market to recover to 50. And then we're going to sell back some of our positions back to peso. So here we have our dollar denominated portfolio. And we have a lot of positions here. We have, as of November 13, we roughly have around 40 markets, okay? But for simplicity, we're just going to cover our top three performing stocks. We have ORSTED, ASML, and Visa. So going to the fundamentals, ORSTED, EPS is around 36.89, book value per share is 223, and then price to book ratio is actually 5, market cap versus enterprise value 469 versus 476 billion. Now, if you're going to look at the earnings per share, it's quite expensive. It's 36.89, but this company is very promising. Orsted is actually engaged in renewable energy sector, particularly wind and I guess they have solar. Now for ASML, we have your earnings per share, that's 7.21, book value 33, price to book that's 10, that's quite high, and then market cap versus enterprise value 150. So it seems that ASML is properly valued at its prevailing market price, but ASML is a very promising company because it's a semiconductor company. So we all know that, tech companies, semiconductor companies, and other internet-based fintech, they are actually driving most of the indices like Nasdaq, Hang Seng, and some of the European indices, and they actually recovered faster than any other stocks or indices. Now for Visa, Visa is actually, of course, the most famous, along with Mastercard, and then this company is actually engaged in online payment facilities. So we have here EPS as of 2020 is not yet available, but I have here book value per share 18, price to book is 13, market cap and enterprise value is 44 and 45 respectively. So um, we can't assess for now if Visa is properly valued or not. But looking at the metrics here, we are still seeing an upside of this company, particularly that most online stores, we have Amazon, we have Alibaba. Most of them are actually um, in a bullish trend since the pandemic, because people are actually buying online, and when they pay, they actually use facilities like Visa, Alipay, you have Mastercard, and so on and so forth. So about the chart here, technical analysis for Orsted. When the presidency or U.S. election was about to happen, we saw this, the stock was actually moving sideways. But when the election result actually came out that Biden won the election, then we had this massive rally in energy stocks, particularly the renewable energy or clean energy sector. And the main reason is that those are actually part of Joe Biden's platform and plans moving on to zero carbon emission by the next 20 or 30 years. So we actually entered here when we saw that there's an formation of upper lows that was actually supported by the MACD moving uptrend, and we saw the RSI here performing a bullish maneuver, crossing the baseline of 50. So for ASML, we have this. Again, most of the stocks in the US are actually, or in Europe, before the US election was moving sideways. And we have this catalyst here, a brief note on Biden appointment and US semiconductors. So most of them were actually affected by the US-China trade war. But it seems that the newly elected president would like to bridge again the trade gap from China and other European countries there. So that's why if we're going to look at here, when we saw that catalyst, the stock was actually trying to perform upper lows here. So the same signal here, when we saw this one, we actually took the position, and um, initially, right after like 2 days, the stock actually failed to breach this resistance here. But after a week, we saw that it actually successfully moved from this line here. So here is Visa. We had a lot of positive news about this one. Consumers moving to online instead of visiting the physical stores. Now it's actually performing very bullish since March, but we saw this correction here coming from this high. So that's around 215, maybe dropped to around 180, and then we failed to grab this one. This was actually or supposed to be the perfect spot to come in, but I was very hesitant that time because of this stagnant lows here. They're actually lying on the same trend, so we actually waited for more signals then. So on this day, I actually spotted the MACD trying to cross over the trend line, so that was the perfect time for me to come in. So that's why we grabbed this price here, and then the stock traded for the next 2 days within these key levels here before gapping at that. Try to look at that massive gap from like 201 to I think 212 there. Okay. So that's all for this video. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope that you learned something. Please do like the video, and if you want others to understand, kindly share this video. And if you need to know more, kindly subscribe so you won't miss any future videos that we're going to make. Thanks for dropping by.